Greetings. Folks, we're gathered here today to talk about Studio Ghibli films. When I got back from my trip in January, I went to the theater all by myself and I watched The Boy and the Heron. And that did something to me, where I thought to myself, I want to see more Studio Ghibli films. So I Googled Studio Ghibli films ranked, and I was not satisfied with the lists that I was finding. So then I thought to myself, well, I'll just watch every single Studio Ghibli film and make the ranking myself then. And that's what I've done. The worst Studio Ghibli film is From Up on Poppy Hill. The movie is boring, basic, ugly, and made by a nepotism baby. This film was so dull, and it only got one single reaction out of me, and that was a reaction of pure disgust and horror. Because, and I'm just going to tell you what happens here because it's the worst film on the entire list, so it doesn't really matter. So spoiler alert, but there's an incest scare in this. What do I mean by an incest scare? I mean, the little couple, the boy and the girl who kind of fall for each other, they find out that they might be brother and sister. And how do they respond to this? Our girl says to her boy, I think my dad brought you into my life for a reason. I don't care that you're my brother. I still love you. So they were really all in on that. And that is what got me to physically scream, and that's what put this movie at the very, very bottom of the list. What I have found with Ghibli is that their highs go high and their lows go very low. So keep that in mind for the next movie on our list. In 24th place is When Marnie Was There. A self-loathing, fat-phobic lesbian girl falls in love with a girl from the marsh, and it's very cute and very sweet, and I actually really, really enjoyed it a lot until I got to the ending where, get this, and spoiler alert, it's incest. Yeah, it's incest. It wasn't going to work out anyway, but the fact of the matter is that at the end of the movie that you find out that they're related. Yep, and that does not work for me. The fact that Ghibli did this twice to me is messed up, and the fact that they did that with their one lesbian love story is extremely messed up. This film was made by Hiromasa Yonebayashi, who did make one other Studio Ghibli film that is actually much better than this, because there's no incest in it. Come on! In 23rd place is Earwig and the Witch. This is a truly soulless nothing of a movie. It is the most nepotism baby film that I have ever seen. Goro Miyazaki, go away. In 22nd place is Ocean Waves. It serves nothing. It gives nothing. 21st place, this one's a bit of a hot take. Don't be mad and forgive me. The Wind Rises. This was one of Hayao Miyazaki's last film swan song movies. I don't like it. I think that the messaging on this movie is entirely muddled. Basically, this movie is trying to present a message of, sure, war is bad and Japan was on the wrong side during World War II, but Japan made a great fighter plane. But the engineers who made that fighter plane didn't want to make a fighter plane that would kill people. They just wanted to make a really great plane that happened to be a fighter plane that would kill people. It's portrayed as like a bummer in the end that Japan lost the war for some reason. There's the slightest little reference to the fact that Japan was imperialist and fascist and killing like millions of people in China and throughout the world at that time. And it's like, this is the scene. That's it. That's the only sort of acknowledgement of it, and that's by like a German guy who was fleeing Nazi Germany, and so he came to imperialist Japan and was just like eating tons of lettuce throughout the movie. And the movie puts any anti-war message that it might have on the back burner in order to focus on the idolization of an engineer who neglects his sick wife in order to make a plane that kills a bunch of people that he didn't want to kill a bunch of people. It's just not good. In 20th place is Grave of the Fireflies. This might be another hot take, but I'm sorry, Grave of the Fireflies is too sad. It's so sad that it kind of fails at any message it was trying to give. The idea that it's being an anti-war film doesn't really work because it almost just becomes an anti-people film. It's so sad that I can't call it a good movie. It's so sad that I can't recommend it to people. Even looking at Letterboxd, the 4 and 5 star reviews are saying I will never watch it again. And to me, that doesn't seem like a good movie. It starts off dealing with the US's firebombings of Japan, so you get to see some of that real horror. And at that point, I thought this is probably a good anti-war movie, but even then I was thinking it's a good anti-war movie for somebody in the US. It might not be a good anti-war movie for somebody in Japan. If a movie about like 9/11 was made in the US by US filmmakers, it might tug on some people's heartstrings to be like, wow, look at all the civilians who are dying, but the people in the US are gonna watch that and it's just gonna be like a big patriotic rally behind the states. And so I'm not sure if that's how people in Japan receive this movie or not. Then the ending of the movie is just ridiculous because you're watching all of these adults see these children who are like starving to death, and the adults don't do anything to help them. And I just am not convinced the doctor, the soldier, the farmer would all look at a starving little child and be like, I will offer you no help whatsoever. 19th place, this is my last hot take. Please forgive me, Princess Mononoke. I'm sorry. This film would have been a perfect film. It would have been my number one. But I made a fatal flaw watching this movie, which was that I chose a side. And this movie doesn't want you to choose a side. This movie wants you to be a good little centrist like Ashitaka. I can see the good and bad at both sides. But the problem with that is this is a movie where there is actually genuinely a good side and a bad side. Ashitaka is just a little annoying idiot. Ashitaka is a pacifist when it's convenient. He talks a big pacifist game, but throughout the movie, he decapitates people multiple times, but he will not kill the leading genocidal evil character. And as a result, he lets them kind of sweep through and commit genocide and wipe out a ton of other characters. They want you to be like, this genocidal character learned their lesson because they got a slap on the wrist and they said that they were going to do better in the future. That's how the movie ends. And that does not work for me. And they try to portray this moment where this genocide committing character is like, I'm helping the women of the region because if they're selling them as slaves, I buy them and I free them and I bring them to my compound and I force them to work for me in my furnace, making weapons to commit genocide. So wow, I'm really doing a lot for the ladies out there. Also, I'm helping the people who are sick with leprosy. I've welcomed them in, put them in a secret little room, and I have them making weapons to commit genocide. So no, this character is not good. I did love the movie up to that point, and I am begging you, if you can explain the ending of Princess Mononoke in a way to me where I can accept it and like it, you would genuinely be doing me a service because it's really, really excellent, except for the fact that I chose a side. It's an unrealistic ending. I don't know if he was going for realism or if he was going for like a utopian kind of ending. If you want to show that the genocidal people win, then you could have left everything like desolate and destroyed, because in reality, if you do commit a genocide like the kind that they were committing in that movie, you are going to suffer the consequences of stuff not being around anymore. 18th place is Porco Roso. Porco Roso is a movie about a man who gets turned into a pig and flies an airplane in Italy at the time of the rise of fascism. So as a result, we get a really banger line where the pig man says, I'd rather be a pig than a fascist. And that slams. There's also a beautiful sequence at the start where these airplane pirates kidnap a bunch of little girlies, and the girlies are just so funny. I beg of you, go turn on that movie and watch like the first 10 minutes and see that sequence. But outside of that, it's just not that necessary of a movie. The pig character is weirdly sexist, and it's played off as a joke. There's a sequence where he's like, I don't want a woman working on my airplane, and then his entire airplane gets rebuilt by women, and it's like much better. It's that, which is great, but you have to sit with the fact that this pig is like sexist, and you don't really feel like he's learned his lesson, because at the end of the movie, he literally gambles with like a 17-year-old girl's life, basically offers her up for marriage to the bad guy, which was weird. In 17th place is Only Yesterday. Only Yesterday is a beautiful film, and my only real criticism of it would be that it's a bit boring and kind of drags at times. And also, I hated the main character's father. I really want that man to cease existence. In 16th place is Pom Pom. This one is also by Isao Takahata. As I've written in my notes, this movie is about raccoons resisting against humans who are taking their land away in the name of development. It does a great job of portraying the humans as an invasive species. The thing about this movie is it is too weird. It crosses a line of weirdness. You would expect a cartoon movie about raccoons to be really cute, but for some reason the raccoons for the majority of the film are animated in the most ugly way possible. Every single boy raccoon walks around with cartoon balls hanging out the whole time. These raccoons have transformation powers, but for some reason the boys get an extra power, which is that they have stretchy, big, bouncy, voluptuous balls. The movie gets like practically like trippy at a certain point. One of the trippy scenes is actually like super cool. However, for the most part, this is like a 2-hour long raccoons resisting humans movie where the raccoons have an insane amount of magical powers and somehow the humans are still dominating, and that gets annoying. You can stretch your balls out insanely far. How can you not take down a freaking human? In 15th place is Tales from Earthsea. This is actually a nepotism baby film that I liked. It's not perfect. There's some boring bits, but it has a really solid ending. It deals with these concepts of death. The dragons in the movie that barely show up at all, but when they do show up, they look amazing. So there's that. Also, I do think that there's a chance that for me, I enjoyed this movie a little bit more because of the fact that I have read some of the books. This is based on the Earthsea cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin, and I have read 1.5 of those books. 14th place is The Red Turtle. This is a very artistic movie. There is actually no dialogue. In order to appreciate this movie, you need to be in a headspace where you're like, I want to see some art on my screen. We're officially entering top 13 territory. All 13 of these films are insanely good. There's an argument for all of these to be in the top spot. In 13th place, I put The Secret World of Arrietty. The cool thing about this movie is it's based on the book The Borrowers, so you have these really little people, and I love the scale that they give them, where they're like putting like one little drop of water in their cup or something. It's just such a great detail, and it makes the backyard seem like this giant sprawling forest. In 12th place is My Neighbor Totoro by Hayao Miyazaki. This film has it all: great public transit, a Totoro, peace and tranquility, an appreciation for nature that goes insanely hard, and an ending that comes out of nowhere to absolutely yank on the strings of your heart. It takes you back to being a kid. It's like the best movie. In 11th place is Ponyo. This is really difficult for me because I was like, how can I put this higher than My Neighbor Totoro? And I think what pushes this just past that one is the fact that I love sea creatures. I think the ocean is so cool, and I really like the message, hey, stop polluting the ocean while you're watching this cute little goldfish girl learn to be a person. This movie does my favorite Studio Ghibli trope, which is that the ending of the movie, where usually you would expect to see like the action rising towards the climax of the movie, they just stop all of the momentum dead to let Ponyo have a moment with a human baby. And I love it when Ghibli does that. 10th place is something I might have to apologize for. I put The Cat Returns. How is this movie so high on this list? In my opinion, I think this movie is insanely good, but just in a way that's entirely different than My Neighbor Totoro or Ponyo, because this movie does not deliver any powerful messages about protecting nature or being against war. This movie is just deranged. It starts as a cute story about a girl meeting cats that can talk, and then it devolves into a nightmare sequence, like something from Winnie the Pooh, like that Heffalump and Woozle song. And then from there, it devolves into a literal thirst edit for a cat in a suit, and I was all in on it. And then it devolves even further beyond that into the most insane ending for a Ghibli film of all time. And it is so funny. You just have to watch it. In 9th place is The Boy and the Heron. This is the film that forced me to do all this. Before I watched this movie, I was one of those Studio Ghibli fans who was like, I had seen 2 Ghibli films and I was like, oh yeah, Ghibli films are really good, but I never actually wanted to sit down and watch one. And watching this film alone in the theater, all by myself, while jet lagged, having to stand up and walk around to stay awake through the whole movie, was the most beautiful experience of all time. This movie feels like a dream. I can vouch for this one because it just might make you want to watch every single Ghibli film. In 8th place is Howl's Moving Castle, also by Hayao Miyazaki. This is Studio Ghibli's Lord of the Rings, because this film just feels big and long and massive and filled with magic and excitement and adventure and things that don't really make sense the first time that I watched it. And then on a rewatch, I was like, oh, it's clicking now. It's got good anti-war themes, got a good commentary on aging, and also Howl is insanely hot. In 7th place is Whisper of the Heart. This film was made for me. This film is about a bookworm who goes to multiple libraries, follows cats around, sings Country Road, Take Me Home, and then is motivated to pursue her dreams and succeed by a boy. And if that's not me, I don't know what is. In 6th place is The Tale of Princess Kaguya. This is where he cracked it. Isao Takahata figured out how to make a sad movie and make it good. It has this beautiful art style. It's like every single frame is an ancient painting. The film starts out with the most beautiful, cute sequences of all time. As we follow our characters and they start to grow up, you feel like you're watching somebody who's maybe being forced to live a life that they didn't choose, and so it gets harder to watch throughout that. Then there's also a sequence that will drop your jaw to the floor. There is just a moment where the artwork goes so insanely hard that it took my breath away. It has a strong point that it's trying to make, and it makes the point well, and so it's really good, and you should definitely watch it.
Whatever I'm saying, don't listen to it. This movie will destroy you. So, don't watch it.
You should maybe definitely watch it. 5th place is Kikis Delivery Service by Hayao Miyazaki. This movie is pure feel-good magic. This is hands down the most heartwarming film about child labor that I have ever seen. In 4th place is My Neighbors the Yamadas by Isao Takahata. This is Takahata's best film. It is the funniest Ghibli film ever made. This is the most everything happens slice of life film that you can imagine. Now we're at the top 3. The top 3 are a complex bunch. 3rd place is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. This is Ghibli's take on Dune and on James Cameron's Avatar, and somehow it's better than both of those films combined. It's just perfect. It's the best Ghibli film ever made, and it's in 3rd place somehow. It captures a lot of classic Ghibli themes in the best way, which is crazy because it's the first film that they made. It does a great job of being anti-war, and at the same time, it captures that sometimes resistance is necessary. It also portrays nature's own style of resistance against humanity in a really compelling, powerful way, and nature's importance in terms of our world, our life, our ecosystems. How we all survive is only thanks to nature. So I love this movie. There is an incredible quote at the end of this movie. Our character says something like, "I won't ask for forgiveness. It would be too cruel." And that line, ooh, that is a great line. In 2nd place is Castle in the Sky. This film is Studio Ghibli's Star Wars. It has iconic flying ships, cute robots, lore that feels timeless on the first watch through. The action is super entertaining throughout. There are like pirate type rugged characters. I don't know, like all the smugglers that you see in Star Wars. You get all this stuff, and then Ghibli pulls the Ghibli thing of being like, oh, we're getting close to that climax, aren't we? Let's chill out everything and just take a minute to really enjoy this beautiful nature. And I love it when Ghibli does that. That's my favorite Ghibli trope. It also is very anti-military in an excellent, excellent way. It almost felt like it was anti-CIA as well. There's one guy that feels like he's like not military, but something else. I associated him with the CIA and said, yeah, I hate you. You're bad, just like the CIA. So anyways, now I gotta level with you. This movie has a weird sequence in it. I felt like it was trying to be wholesome, but it might actually be criminal. There's a moment when our young kiddos, who are the main characters, end up on a pirate ship. All of the adult pirate men, it seems like they're into the little girl character, and I don't like that. It's set up for this joke. This one pirate adjusts his mustache to go into the kitchen to talk to the young girl, because he's like into her. He like kind of offers to help, and then he looks over in the corner. He sees that another pirate is already in there peeling potatoes. And he's like, hey, you said you had a stomach ache. Now you're in here working. As they're talking, yet another pirate comes in with flowers. And the way that sequence ends is all of the pirates are working in the kitchen for the young girl, and she's just directing them. The concept of all the men coming in and doing all the work in the kitchen for her is like cute, but it's like, at what cost? I was so weirded out, I went on Reddit, and yeah, there's a lot of people saying that scene is weird. A lot of people trying to justify that scene in weird ways. Like some people were saying, no, she's like a mother figure for them. Like the 13-year-old girl is mothering. She's serving mother, which is questionable. Other people were saying that these pirate men have been living in the sky as pirates all this time, and so they still have these childlike mentalities, and they have kid crushes on her, and that's weird. There's maybe a take they just like her, and it's like a big brother kind of liking her. I don't know. My takeaway from this movie is that that, gosh dang it, this movie was made in the 80s. And movies from the 80s just are cursed. This sequence does not help with the Star Wars allegations, because in Star Wars you also get a much older pirate type character crushing on the young girl. So you kind of just might have to grit your teeth and bear it to get through that sequence, and I completely understand if you don't like the film on account of that, because there's a part of me that doesn't like it too. I just feel like outside of that sequence, it is incredible, it's beautiful, it's entertaining, it's powerful. Like, there's a lot that it has to offer. I don't know what else to say. I apologize. In first place is Spirited Away. And I'm so annoyed because I feel like Spirited Away is like so overhyped. It's the Ghibli film that everybody's seen, and so I wanted to be more original, but I sat down to watch Spirited Away, and gosh dang it, if it isn't technically the best Studio Ghibli film. If I'm watching a Ghibli film and I see a duck in the background with a giant leaf on its head, I'm putting that movie in the top spot. It's like that. So it has a little message on the horrific side effects of pollution. It has these messages that are against consumerism and this concept of overconsumption. And guess what else this movie does? You get to the third act, where the action should be rising toward the climax, and a really chilled out sequence where they just want you to appreciate some beauty. If that is not my favorite Ghibli trope, they gave it to me again. So yeah, Spirited Away wins on a technicality. The technicality being that it is the best, unfortunately. That said, if you were to ask me like my personal favorite outside of the ranking, I would probably say Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I actually want to discuss a few different ways that we could look at the Ghibli films, because ranking them is one way, but it might not give you a full grasp of how I feel about these. So first I'm going to tell you the Studio Ghibli films that made me cry. So Only Yesterday, My Neighbor Totoro, The Tale of Princess Kaguya, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. When Marnie was there, before I realized that they were related, I just thought it was a really beautiful love story that got to me. I cried watching Pom Pom. Spirited Away made me cry. I was overwhelmed with the sweeping emotion from like the score and the beauty and the good feelings, and it actually made me tear up a bit because of that. Grave of the Fireflies is to be expected. And then Howl's Moving Castle made me cry in the same way that Spirited Away made me cry. Now I'm going to tell you the Ghibli films that I believe I would revisit the most. They are Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, Ponyo, My Neighbors the Yamadas, Whisper of the Heart, Castle in the Sky, and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I have a list here of some movies that I want to watch at least one more time before I make a final decision on will I be watching them more or will I be never watching them again. Boy and the Heron, I want to watch it with the context of having seen every other Ghibli film now and decide if it still belongs in that spot. Tales from Earthsea, I would actually like to watch once more. The Cat Returns needs another watch through from me. I think that it's going to fall into the I can revisit this a lot. I just need to watch it once more. And then Tale of Princess Kaguya, I may watch this again. Yeah, Princess Mononoke would be at the very top of the rewatch as often as possible list, except for that ending. But I am going to put it into my list of I think I will rewatch it one more time at some point just to try to find some good interpretation of that ending. I have one more list here. These are the movies that I will rewatch again, but I need to take my time. So Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, and The Secret World of Arrietty. That's like a very specific type of thing where you have to let that movie sit and then you get good and back in the mood, and then you can come back and revisit it. As for the rest of the films, I don't know if I will ever revisit them. I think one was enough, possibly. And that's how I feel about all of that. Thank you so much for watching. That was tons of fun. I have a huge gaping hole in my life right now because I keep coming home and thinking, what Studio Ghibli film am I going to watch? And I'm out of them. Let me know if there's some other directors that you want me to go through their filmography, and I will definitely do it. I was thinking maybe it would be fun to rank Wes Anderson films. It might be fun to rank Wong Kar-wai films. I've seen a couple of those, and those are really good. I do have a list prepared, and I could film a video on it, ranking all the Star Wars stuff. As somebody who has seen all of the Star Wars films and the Star Wars shows, I have some hot takes on them. You should let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. Other than that, subscribe if you would like to, leave a like if you would like to, leave a comment if you would comment to. Have a wonderful day. It's done!